Hello, everybody, and welcome to Influencer Marketing, How Marketers and Ad Networks Can Succeed, the latest webinar in Tune's webinar series. We have a great webinar lined up for you today that will give you all the essentials you need to succeed in the world of influencer marketing. We're really excited to have guest speakers Lisa Navarro, Erik Radtke, and Adam Hadi join us. Lisa is co-founder and senior vice president of operations at the BLU Market, as well as an influencer herself. Her personal relationships in the influencer market has played a role in increasing the BLU Market's influencers to about 350 million in following. Erik is a VP of sales also at the BLU Market. He advises mobile marketers in user acquisition, app launches, viral and organic installs, and so on. He was previously director of user acquisition at the mobile network NativeX. And then lastly, Adam is a user acquisition consultant based in New York. Previously, he was head of marketing at Draft and lead user acquisition at Tops Digital after spending years as economist for the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I am Nate Ivey, today's webinar moderator. I'm the director of sales for North and South America at Has Offers by Tune, the leading industry solution to manage marketing campaigns, engage the right audiences, optimize ad network performance, and grow your business. Thanks to everyone who's joined the call. We have almost 800 registrants joining us today from all around the world, and we're excited for a good webinar today. One shameless plug here before we kind of get into things. Has Offers by Tune gives thousands of businesses around the world the ability to track and manage their own publisher relationships and performance in one place. We give customers control in one customizable platform. Our technology is easy to use and backed by unparalleled support. So here's an overview of kind of what we're going through today. Erik's going to start us off with an overview of the influencer marketing landscape, its scope as a revenue stream, and how to build influencer marketing without any experience. Then Lisa will be up next and give us insight into what influencers really want and the key to working with them successfully. And Adam will finish everything up with the distinction of influencer marketing from conventional user acquisition. If you guys have questions that come up while we're speaking, feel free to send those down in the bottom Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. We'll make sure to save a couple minutes at the end and maybe even interrupt some of these guys, make sure we can answer as many questions as possible. Follow along on Twitter to get highlights, talk to other attendees, or shoot us a message using the hashtag TuneWebinar. With that, let's get things started, and I'll pass things on to Erik.
Thanks, Nate. I appreciate that. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you might be joining us. My name is Erik Radtke. As Nate said, I'm the Vice President of Sales at the BLU Market. I want to be talking a little bit about influencer marketing as it intersects with the jobs that most people have on this call, mobile marketing, and talking a little bit about that. So here's really what we're looking at. Two problems that solve each other. The emerging world of social media influencers represents a huge opportunity to assist these individuals with more ways to increase the monetization of their social followings. As larger and larger social influencers come on the scene with more of them doing it, there's an increased need for ways for these guys and gals to get paid. Mobile marketers, as I don't need to tell too many people on this call, are seeing your costs go up. We're going to dive a little bit into why that is and how these two problems can solve themselves. But first, let's take a little look under the hood and talk about social influencers, who they are, where they come from, and what they might represent to us. According to a great great article in the Washington Post, we should expect to see mobile marketers spending $3.5 billion in 2017. There's a huge wave coming, and this is going to be a little bit about how to participate in that wave. So who are these social influencers, thinking about them? Well, a lot of them, as we know, might be online famous, but many of them are offline famous. But the majority of those that exist and move the needle in terms of revenue are going to be mostly just online famous, people that you wouldn't even know who they are. Very often they're young, so you'll find them in dorms, basements, all around the globe. Where you won't find them is hanging out at any of our industry trade shows. We're probably not going to see very many of them at Postback this summer, although maybe we could encourage a couple of big ones to come. They don't have LinkedIn profiles. They aren't on any agency lists, and so they are not going to be easy to track down. A lot of them are young, but keep this in mind that because of the fact there's so many of them and they represent such a huge marketing power right now, a lot of these kids are making more in a week than you made last month. So they may or may not be super motivated by the dollars that you're putting in front of them because they've already made, in many, many cases of articles that are publicly out there, you can see where a 14-year-old is actually the primary breadwinner in their family, making more than sometimes mom and dad combined. Also, I will say that to understand their culture is to understand that they don't know or appreciate the business jargon and the professional discourse that most of us are accustomed to. When you try to talk to them about ROI and having their stuff back into your models, a lot of that is just going to go right over their heads. Not that they're not savvy, not that they're not valuable, but that just doesn't happen to be how they communicate. And so being able to speak their language and understand that they're probably in a lot of times going to be a square peg for the round hole that you might be looking for, and to be ready to be adaptable for that. So that's a little bit about some of these influencers. Let's talk a little bit about our side of the business. We all know it's tough out there. I recently read a post from somebody that said this year, 2017, we'll see 3.5 million apps in the various app stores. And so if you're getting ready to launch something this year, congratulations. You only have 3,499,999 competitors. So yeah, I don't need to tell you that with that increase in demand of trying to distribute all of those apps, we need a dramatic increase in supply, or correspondingly, we're going to see our rate and costs of acquisition continue to go up and up. Just 3 years ago, the spend in app installs was $4 billion. This year, it's going to be $17 billion. Without opening up a substantial amount of new pockets of supply, we're going to continue to be finding it more and more difficult to have ROI positive user acquisition, which of course many of us in this call are tasked with. So I want to share a little bit about, from my perspective, some of the landmines that you may or may not be tempted to step on. We have walked through the landmine ahead of you. We, meaning the BLU Market, has lost several limbs here and there, and so our loss is your gain now. We want to share some tips with you that can help you get ready to do your own influencer marketing. So this is going to be tough, but don't quit. This is definitely going to be a try, fail, adjust scenario for you, because from those advertisers that have figured out how to grab the reins of the social media influencers, they would tell you firsthand that influencer campaigns done right will spin off metrics that are well beyond your models that you've got right now, from the ability to buy cost effectively, from a retention standpoint, from amount of users that you acquire that will convert to paying users. Testimony after testimony we hear is that this is the most effective advertising dollars that they spend. And even though we may be sitting in a situation right now where there are some known hurdles, I just got back from Affiliate Summit in Vegas, and I walked the expo floor, and you wouldn't believe, seemed like every third or fourth booth had something about how they're trying to solve this problem, working with social media influencers. It's the 2017 influencer marketing is ripe for disruption. New stuff is coming on board all the time, and it's only going to get better, easier, faster, stronger, however the song goes. So this is going to be a good opportunity. I'll also tell you that you're going to need to be ready to be flexible. Bend but don't break. Your traditional models and the standards that you've set for acquisition, the necessity of all of the data points before you can make a decision will be a problem for you if you are inflexible. I will say that because we're not dropping SDKs into apps and you are doing marketing outside of the bounds of some of the traditional areas, you're going to have to accept some gray math, as I call it. But understand that those that have figured this out are definitely calling, and I've said many times and publicly that spending through this channel is their secret growth sauce. And I mentioned this earlier too, but in the process of this, you're going to have to figure out how to address the fact that these influencers have very little tolerance for your marketing team's process. And what I mean by that is if you say, hey, you know what, I've got to get this approved by such and such, and let me come back to you and all that kind of stuff. In a lot of cases, these influencers have the attention span you would expect from somebody in that age category, that there's not a whole lot of them waiting around. Many of them have groupthink, and they all know each other. The large influencers that really can move the needle, they converse with each other. It's difficult to get trust and credibility within this community. If you lose it, it's very tough to get it back because they do all speak with each other. And as you approach the prospects of doing influencer marketing, you're going to be able to need to speak their language. And in many ways, it is not traditionally the language that we're accustomed to. So being able, if you come to them and say, yeah, I can pay you on a net 45, they'll look at you with their eyes crossed and say, what are you smoking? So probably not going to work out that way. Let me tell you a little bit about the BLU Market. I'm the VP of Sales, so I have to do this contractually. Kidding. We have relationships with over 6,000 plus actually, social influencers that have signed up on our platform. Well over 300 million unique users across all of the followings. We hit over 1 billion eyeballs monthly. In 2016, the BLU Market delivered 15 million attributed installs, more than 50 studios, 100 unique titles. We are able to do this because we've leveraged has offers. We've implemented Tune's product into our back end in order to make all of the user acquisition campaigns trackable and attributable for everything that we do. So your traditional performance models that you've relied on can be applied here in terms of the metrics you look at for CPIs and backing that into LTV models. That's been something that's been very important for us to be able to do and provide is attributable. To be honest with you, using has offers and building around them is really what makes the BLU Market different. We don't have a business without has offers because we want to be able to offer all UA buyers the opportunity to use attributed installs. We'll work within social feeds in order to push out stuff about the app. People then will get directed to the App Store. Because of the large-scale volume, you have the opportunity to climb up the charts and get a tremendous amount of offers. So we run primarily app offers. The reason why we run mostly app offers is because we find them to be the spin off the most amount of payout for the influencer community. We recognize that on the marketing side of things, things are very competitive, that you are trying to outpace anyone else who's doing mobile marketing. Well, it's the exact same thing on the other side of the house too. On the supply side, the BLU Market is competing for influencers' inventory. And so we have always gravitated towards running offers that have the highest possible payout, and we have to optimize to that. As we sit here today, I don't need to tell many of you on this call, but still the number one way to monetize a large audience on mobile is still through CPI campaigns. So that's the center of the bullseye, center of the target. And so that's the first problem, first primary post that the BLU Market is working with. I want to put a little bow on this segment of it before we get into talking with some people that are some influencers themselves, as well as hearing more about some other platforms as well. Social influencers do represent the opportunity to dramatically increase the ad supply in this industry. When I look at all of the emerging trends right now, this to me is the number one way to solve that problem of a limited amount of ad supply. Opening these up through new technology partners, things like what the BLU Market and others are doing, represents the opportunity to do that. Influencers are unique. They will require new approaches and new metrics and new math. But as I said before, I'll say it again, you're going to need to do some trying. You're probably going to do some failing. Then you adjust and you try again. Try, fail, adjust. Last, I'll say this. I'm supposed to. You should run a campaign with the BLU Market. Happy to help you guys. So thank you for your time. I want to move things along and then come back to you with some Q&A at the end.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. Oh, sorry, Nate.
No, go ahead, Lisa. I was just going to say thank you, Eric. And now Lisa's up next to chat kind of with her experience as an influencer herself.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to thank you for the lovely introductions. I just wanted to say good morning to everyone. And if you're on the East Coast like myself, good afternoon. I've been in the influencer space since about 2012, which kind of makes me a veteran in this industry. When I first got started as an influencer, I really didn't know why I was growing followers, just that it was important and brands wanted it, which is why I suspect many of you are here today. You know, social influence is important to building your brand, and you want to learn more about it, and that's why I'm here, and we started the BLU Market to help brands through integrated social marketing. I created a way other influencers like myself can cross-promote our channels and grow at a much faster pace. I've grown about hundreds of accounts from every niche you can imagine: fitness, food, love, comedic, and I've also managed some personality accounts. Fast forward to present day, and my peers have grown from 0 to the upwards of 13 million plus in following. Of course, all these successes don't come with headaches and setbacks. I'm willing to bet anyone who jumped into this space guns blazing has probably had some unfortunate experience, like being scammed, for instance. Maybe you purchased an ad on what seemed like a potentially high engagement account, yet didn't receive a positive result. Maybe even experienced a loss on that purchase. Being in the new digital space, you know very well that we can also become victim to botted traffic. That's kind of a huge issue too when you're looking for different accounts to possibly promote on. In the land of Instagram and Facebook, you have to worry about fake views and fake likes. And I think one of the important things that everyone needs to remember is not to just look at an Instagram account for simply their following. It's really important that you actually analyze the account, you know, take a look at some of the content that's being posted, compare it with like some timetables, follow the account, get to know it, see what they're posting, look at the engagement from the 10-minute post. You know, most activity on Instagram accounts range from about a 5 to 10% ratio of activity, and then after the first 20 minutes, that starts to decline. So you definitely need to align yourself with some experts in the industry that are gauged to review all this for you. They've already done the headaches. They've already gone through all of the issues ahead of time, and they know exactly what to look for to maximize your ROI. One important thing when looking at promoting in the influencer market is looking to socially target your app installs. Influencers they're there, just like Erik said. They're not very easy to find, but they're actually searching for you. They need that consistent client base that they can connect with. The more you know about the space you're in, the more apt the influencer would be to actually engage you and the product. And through that interest, that'll increase the success of your ads. Influencers, they're bottom line, just like us, they're looking for the most efficient way to make money. They need clean, viral content that looks as organic as possible. You yourself on the marketing side, that should be your primary concern is creatives. You want to make those creatives as organic as possible so that you can increase that ROI. Your ROI definitely depends on the creatives. Forget the posts that you're buying for $5K to $50K from these personalities who are probably not even going to give you a good return on that investment. You know, they're going to probably post a picture that's not very enticing because they're very picky about content. They're probably going to post whenever they feel like it, most likely at a time when it's least engaging, and bury your post on top of that because they don't even want to show you to their audience. Some of them won't even tag you in the post, and that's when buying from an influencer market becomes a complete total waste of time. You need to capture as much of that audience as you can and bring them to your own platform, whether it be by an Instagram page, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, because then you know that person was interested enough to click that follow button so you know that they're interested in your product. Just like you send push notifications out on your apps, you can now self-promote, and you've taken the potential customer from the influencer channel to your own channel. One of the main issues that a lot of people are talking about is ROI. How do you increase that ROI? How do you make sure that the investment you're making in the influencer is going to give you that return you're looking for? Marketers are already in this space, and they're in it blindly. They're paying inflated prices because they don't know what it's worth. How do you measure? How do you know? Maximize results by knowing what to look for. You have to come into this space as organized as possible when speaking with these influencers. You need to engage them. You need to ask them questions. Ask them when their highest engagement is. What time would they recommend you post? Influencers already have their statistics on their accounts. They know the majority of women, that they have majority of women, or if they have the majority of men. So definitely engage them in conversation and ask them questions. The more you get to know the influencer and build a relationship with them, the more likely they are to offer the information for you. So say you'll ask them to post at 5 p.m., and 5 p.m. in the influencer market is not a very active time. They would be more apt then to let you know the better time for posting, and then that can increase your return by upwards of 50%. So it's really important that you get to know the influencer, you ask the right questions, and just go into it learning. And they'll be more than happy to assist you. Content is king. The most important thing about posting with an influencer is content. They're very picky about what they post. So the more you make it look as organic as possible, the better return you're going to have on your investment. So take the time to build your creatives. You're going to take out that stigma of a paid ad versus organic. So many times we hear people talk about, Facebook that pushes out an ad or Instagram that pushes out an ad. They're ignored. Now everyone's moving to social. And what are they moving to social for? They're not watching television any longer. Their television is more of background noise. So what's happening is they're watching their television shows, or they're watching their news channels on social. News channels are now reporting on social. You know, you download Hulu, you download Netflix so that you don't have to watch commercials. It's the same thing in the influencer space in your feed. You're going to see a sponsored ad, and you're most likely not even going to click it, or you're not even going to look at it as soon as you see it sponsored. So you want that native, high-impact ad formats, and I can't stress enough to put most of your investment into your creatives. App install budgets are large and growing. That's no doubt about that. There was an estimated $4 billion spent on app install ads in 2014, and that's estimated to grow to $17 billion this year. Mobile app install budgets have moved and are continuing to move to the social influencer marketing. 300 daily active users with 1 billion people that have installed Instagram by August of 2016. 90% of these users are under the age of 35. That's your market. Worldwide, there are 1.79 billion monthly active Facebook users, which is 16% increase year over year. I've heard from many that the gold rush, I think there was an article published, that the gold rush of the app market is leaving us, that it's gone. The numbers say the complete opposite, and anyone who has been in this space, the real pros, they know that it's completely unlikely. I like to call this era the new age digital era, just because these numbers clearly determine that social is growing more than ever. You literally cannot go to dinner without someone Snapchatting their meal. They're loading it up on Facebook. We know what everyone's eating. We know what everyone's doing. Facebook Live launched, and now everyone has their own channel. TV is becoming obsolete. If you're not utilizing this space to your advantage now, then you're not too late, because these numbers clearly show that it's excessively growing, and I recommend that you team up with an expert and, get to know the influencer space inside and out, and that's the only way that you'll be able to increase your ROI. Now I think I'll take the Q&A questions.
Yeah, so for everybody that's following along, keep sending your Q&A questions, and we'll take those at the end. We also are answering some just directly if we can answer them real quickly. We do have some lined up for once Adam's done. So thanks, Lisa. And next up will be Adam.
All right. Well, thanks, Nate. And yeah, that was a great job by Lisa and Erik. I'm going to try not be too redundant and cover some of the stuff that they spoke about. But just a quick background on myself and kind of why I'm doing this comparison between influencer marketing and more conventional user acquisition. I'm a user acquisition consultant, so I help clients with all realms of user acquisition. That includes conventional stuff, your Facebook ads, your Twitter ads, your Google ads, etc., as well as influencer marketing, which I really got started working on when I used to be at Tops Digital, and then after that, Draft, the daily fantasy app. But yeah, with that, I'll hop right into it. I just want to go over some of the advantages of influencer campaigns, and again, this is within the context of user acquisition in general. Number one, and the most important thing that we tend to care about, is that it's cost effective. Influencer marketing can be, as Erik alluded to, your best channel. It depends on a number of different factors, but if they all line up, it can be your most cost effective channel. In addition, in terms of user quality, you can be hitting certain niches that are really tough to hit otherwise. And generally speaking, those who are engaging with social influencers, these are highly engaged users. These are normally a hardcore fan base that you're getting with. So you can usually count on high quality users to come in. And then in addition, there's a bit of a burst effect. So typically with influencer campaigns, really regardless of source, they tend to be very, very, very front-loaded, meaning you're getting a ton of users all at once. Now, especially if all these followers of these users are in one specific country, even a big country like the United States, but certainly smaller countries as well, you can see you can see a chart effect. You can jump and rank within a category or overall, as well as trending search. That's even more typical. As you can imagine, since a lot of these installs are not coming through click-throughs, these are coming by people finding out about your app and then searching for it. To become a searching trend is relatively common, especially with the first few campaigns. And then the last advantage I wanted to speak about was scale. Now, typically, in terms of conventional user acquisition, we're accustomed to CPIs rising as we scale up. Anybody can get a super low CPI at a super low scale. That's easy. But what the challenge is trying to maintain a reasonable CPI as you scale up. One of the nice things about influencer campaigns is that we aren't talking about a fixed supply here. We aren't talking about increasing bids. So it's theoretically possible that you hit a very good CPI at a low volume. You can take that same output and scale it up without increasing your CPI. So that's really nice. Moving on, there's then the disadvantages, which of course exist. I would say number one is measurement challenges. And this varies depending on the platform that you're using. But measurement can be tough. It's never, and I think Eric had alluded to this as well, it's never quite as clean as you would expect from a typical ad network. Not that that's super clean within itself, but even relative to that, you're going to have a lot of view-through installs. You're going to have, it's generally speaking not super simple to measure. However, if you take that into account and you know what you're getting yourself into, you can measure it effectively. The second point is that it's difficult getting started. If you've never run an influencer campaign, where do you start? What channel do you start? What influencer do you use? Who's your base? Some of these answers, are simpler than others. I mean, if you're a baseball app, then maybe you should be targeting baseball influencers. If you're a music app, then music influencers. I mean, that much is pretty simple. But if you've never gotten into it, it can be pretty intimidating and something that you just kind of ignore. Moving on, creative control. That's another thing that we may be used to when dealing with ad networks or Facebook ads or what have you. I mean, you put up a video, you put up an image, and well, that's your creative. When you're working with influencers, that's not necessarily going to be the case. Maybe if you're putting up on something on Instagram, yes. But if, let's say, you're working on YouTube or if you're working on Snapchat, you're not giving them the creative. They're creating it themselves. And believe it or not, in most cases, that's a good thing. They know their audience better than you do. And so to have them creating these essentially super native ads is much better than you telling them what to put up. But you have to relinquish some control when doing that. And you have to be comfortable with that. And I guess depending on your brand, that can be easier said than done. Moving on, there's the actual predictability of this. This isn't, oh, hey, I'm going to get exactly 500,000 impressions, and I'm expecting a super specific click-through rate, which is going to lead to this, and that. It's just, it's not as predictable as other networks would be in that realm. So you have to be a little bit flexible. Again, something else the great Erik Radtke referred to earlier. You have to be willing to bend a little bit, have some campaigns that perform better than others, but be able to take the average of them all and run with that. And then one more thing was actual lead time. You can't just push a button and turn on influencer advertising, and then push another button and turn it off. It doesn't work like that, like it does on other networks. Well, for one, there is no off button. That's a good thing. But you do need some lead time. You need in most cases a couple of weeks, if not more, to really get things started. So you need to think of this stuff ahead of time. Now I'm just going to go quickly cover some of the the channels that are out there. I'll warn you from now. I focus in on YouTube. That's my favorite channel, so I'll discuss that a little bit more in detail afterwards. But there's obviously Instagram. Instagram is great because you can link out in Instagram. You can link people to your own profile. It's trackable in that way. Obviously, the volume is there. It's super popular. Snapchat it's got some more difficult measurement challenges because of you can't link out. However, with Snapchat, everything happens within a 24-hour window, so that's certainly helpful. And again, the volume is there, and that's emerging as being a pretty great channel. Twitter is interesting because you would think that Twitter would be the best channel for direct response because everything is linkable. There's nothing, it's very native in the Twitter interface to link out. But I at least personally haven't really seen it be that cost effective. The same with Facebook actually, and there's Twitch. Twitch is super interesting, especially from an engagement standpoint. And from a measurement standpoint, it also has the added advantage of, well, if you're paying an influencer to stream you on Twitch, okay, it happens and then it stops. And from an attribution standpoint, that makes things pretty easy. And then there's always the new platforms. So, I mentioned here Musical.ly, and it's if you know any 13-year-old girl, they know what Musical.ly is. Camcord, Camcord's an app for streaming from your mobile device. So again, kind of like the mobile version of Twitch. These are new platforms that, they might not be huge yet, but the earlier you get on, the better chance you have at really kind of gaining an edge. And so I guess before I talk any more, I figured the easiest way to just is to start showing some examples. So I've got a few videos that I did when I was with Draft. So Draft is a daily fantasy app. Now, I warn you, I'm about to click into the next slide here, which will play the video. However, it's going to play unmuted by default. So if you want to listen to the video, and I recommend you do, you're going to have to unmute the next slide. So I'll pop over in that right now.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy iPod King Carter here. I want to introduce you guys to a new app that everybody has been playing, and I want in on it. I don't care. Listen, I've seen videos from QJB, YMD, Body Bag. He was even playing with Nick the Bulls fan. Even Waza now playing the app, and nobody told me about it. Nobody gonna tell me, iPod King Carter, about Draft. Well, look, I'm here to tell you guys about it. This is what we gonna do. For all these YouTubers out here that think they can make these videos, play this game without telling me, I'm challenging every single one of them right now. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about the app. So, first of all, the app is called Draft. What it is a mobile fantasy league app. You can draft every single day. What happens is once you draft, the games will either happen Thursday, Sunday, Monday, all those games rounded up whenever.
Hey, Adam, are you still there?
Oh man, I just said a lot of things on mute. All right, sorry about that, guys. What I was saying was you kind of heard an intro there to the Draft app by that YouTuber, and so what you saw there, he was complaining initially in the app that all these other YouTubers were playing and he wasn't playing, and that's really what we were trying to create, was a community where YouTubers would play other YouTubers in Draft, and we kind of really simulated the type of experience we were hoping our users would have together. And specifically, the call to action with these videos was, hey, come play me in Draft. And we would link out. This was actually using a branch link so that when you would install the app through that link, we'd automatically set you up in a draft versus that influencer. And so that's what we were going for, was a very organic, very engaging pitch there. And that's and in that, I hope that first video you guys were able to hear fine. I'll jump into the second one right now. The second one is more of a demo of the app, and so I'll only play a little bit of it. But it's the same idea. It's somebody else. This is in the Madden community on YouTube. So let me pop in there real quick again. You'll have to unmute this video.
Yo, what's going on, guys? Toke here, and I'm back on a new app called Draft, guys. NFL season's right around the corner, starting tomorrow. And this is a really, really fun app that we can go ahead and play together. As you guys can see, my name on the app is Toke TV, same as my gamer tag. And you can play all different types of sporting events, NFL, MLB, and college football. Now, you can play with friends. I want you guys all to go and add me. I've been playing a lot of fantasy football, and this is exactly the same thing. But you can play for free. You can play for money, and it's so hard to squeeze every one of the people that wanted to play fantasy football with me into one thing. So we can go ahead and we can play this all together. Anybody that wants to play. Now you guys can see you can play for free, but you can also play for $1, $5, $10. You can even move the stakes all the way up to $50, man. And it's a lot of fun to be able to play. It's going to pay out. You can add money or you can play for free. I'm going to need you guys to go ahead.
So that's,
click the link.
that was another example. Again, somebody else in the Madden community. That one was just strictly a screen grab, wasn't showing himself in the video. But you see, like, the call to action there is super, super strong on his end to have you come in and play the app and play against him. Now, those were fairly obvious targets for us. We were a sports app talking about fantasy football, and these guys played Madden online. I mean, it was a really good match. Now, in this third example, I'm gonna veer off a little bit. So this was not exactly what you would expect to be your target audience. And I guess before I get into this, I'll say that, you know, when you approach influencer marketing, you should do so with an open mind. And everything is worth a little bit of testing. And so I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with ASMR. I imagine a very small percentage are. I had first learned about it on This American Life. But ASMR are people who, it stands for audio sensory something response. And it's people who really, I hesitate to say this, but get off to whispering. And when I say get off, I don't necessarily mean that in a sexual way. They just really enjoy whispering. It relaxes them. They go to sleep to it. Soft sounds in general. It might not even be whispering itself. It might be the sound of a hairbrush. It's a very interesting community, to say the least. And so I actually had an influencer approach me from that community looking to promote Draft. And I was like, okay, this is crazy, but let's give it a shot. And I'll hop in the video right here. And again, especially on this one, you really only get the full effect if you unmute it. So be sure to unmute the video here.
Good evening, my dears. This is Haley Whispering Rose. And this evening, in honor of the NFL season starting off here in America, I thought I would play a little game demonstration with you on an app I found called Draft. Basically, it's an app where you
so again, bear with me on that one. That is a 15-minute long video of a woman whispering about Draft. Again, is it our target audience? Maybe not, but you can imagine the type of users. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better onboarding experience than a 15-minute video going through the detailed features of our app. And so, you know, actually, it turned out that was, in terms of quality of user, that was some of our best users, and it ended up being a cost-effective campaign. So I like that example because, first of all, it's ridiculous, and second of all, it's an example of why you need to be a little bit open-minded when you approach different channels. As promised before, I'm going to talk a little bit more about YouTube and kind of why I like it as a channel. It has super large scale. YouTube is huge, and if you're about my age, I'm 30 years old. You probably engage with YouTube in a way that your friends send you links You click those links, you watch a YouTube video, and then that's it. But for most people, let's say about 25 or younger, they engage with YouTube in a very, very different way. They're very big on subscribing to channels, and they go to YouTube to engage with content. You'll see this across the board, the same way when we might, go on to Facebook or go on to Twitter or go on to Instagram to get this feed of content. People go on to YouTube to get this feed of content, and it can be done so in huge volume, especially all at once. I like that you can link out, and so you're never going to capture all of what you get, all the installs you get from a YouTube campaign through the links. But as long as you can capture some sample of it, you can extrapolate from there. So the ability to link out, even if it only captures a fraction of your audience, is still super important. And then it's a captive audience on YouTube. This is a little bit more anecdotal, but when you're watching a YouTube video, in the world of the internet, that is a huge commitment. You're watching a video, essentially, even either you're on your mobile device, and if you're not on your mobile device, your hands are free to install the app while you're watching the video. Compared to swiping across the feed, it's a super high captive environment. And I touched on the fact that it's a hardcore audience. I mean, these are people who, again, some YouTube vlogger posted a video 5 minutes ago and it already has tens of thousands of views. These are people who are fiending for this content and will essentially listen to whatever this YouTuber has to say. It also has a very, very, very long tail. So while the majority of the views are going to come in, in the first day, in the first couple of days, in the first week, it lives on forever. And so, you may evaluate a campaign a few weeks out and be like, oh, this was great, it got us X number of views. But then, hey, if you check in, maybe 6 months later or maybe a year later, you'll see that, oh, there's a nice 20% boost there to what I was seeing earlier, or a 30% boost. And that just kind of goes on forever. And so all those long tails tend to add up over time and giving you a nice, essentially free base of users. And you can expect, I call it TV-like lift effects. And so this is, even if users are not converting when they see your ad right away, you can expect to see higher click-throughs on more conventional forms of advertising after that. And so there's a number of ways to actually target these users. If they're big enough on Facebook, certainly, and even for smaller users on Twitter, where you can retarget fans of these channels on other platforms. Expect fairly high click-throughs there. And there's retargeting, and that's a bit of what I talked through those other channels, but through the YouTube channel itself. Now, let's say I introduce this app draft to this audience, but I want to keep them engaged a month later. Well, I can hit the nearly the same exact audience again by having this influencer post another video, and you can often do that at a pretty steep discount, and it can be very effective both in terms of generating new installs and engaging with current ones. And so I feel like I'm running a little over time here, so I'm going to breeze through this as quickly as I can. These are just some sample costs that you can expect, and this is specific to YouTube. You'll notice these are very wide ranges because that's the reality of it. In terms of cost, there's YouTubers who you can get as low as $5 CPM. I mean, that's cheaper than a lot of what we pay on conventional ad networks. And these aren't for ads; these are for or these aren't for conventional ads. These are for the content themselves. The most important number you're going to look at is your conversion rate, and that's from views to installs. As you can imagine, this varies a lot as well. It varies based on who your audience is, how good the pitch is, and what exactly you're sponsoring. Is this a 30-second clip at the top of the video, or is this the entire video? Is it a dedicated video? That's all going to affect the conversion rate from views to installs. And then from scale, I mean, if you're targeting somebody super small, that's certainly possible, and you can test there. But there are many, many, many YouTubers out there who have huge fan bases, and you can scale up and spend well over $100 grand on that. being that this is more of a comparison of conventional advertising into influencer advertising, this page should seem very familiar to us because these are the numbers that we're used to dealing with on other networks. And this kind of breaks down what you can expect based on some of those conversion numbers. So I gave you a range of 0.5% to up to 10% conversion of views to installs. As you see, that makes a huge difference in terms of how that backs into a CPI. The sample here I gave at a $30 CPM. That's, I'd say, pretty mid-range. And, you know, just scaled up to a 500,000 view video. And so this is, you know, potentially what $15,000 can get you. And so, again, that's something that should look familiar to any of us doing UA on other platforms. But, yeah, with that, I guess I'll be wrapped up. Thanks for listening, guys. And, hey, time for Q&A. I'll pass it on to Nate.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. We've got a lot of questions coming through, which is fantastic. If we do not get to your question, we will be doing a blog post on some of the unanswered questions and even some of the questions we do answer, just so we can distribute it outside of the webinar here. So make sure you check out tune.com/blog, and we'll be posting those as soon as we can as far as the blog post goes. So I'm just going to hop into some of the questions we've got. The first one is specifically for Lisa. The question is, how do you know if an influencer may or may not be taking advantage of you? Or what do you do if they are not fulfilling their contract obligations, if they are a little bit different beast than the typical supply channels we're working with?
Hi, yes. So basically, I would say it's important to gauge that conversation with the influencer well up front before you start your campaign. And I also think that before you fully launch your campaign, it's important to test it amongst several influence channels. That way you're able to measure the engagement and you know who's giving you the least. That way you can pick the best influencer for your campaign after doing the test run first. I also think it's nowadays, since the influencer market has grown so much, it is not completely unorthodox to issue a contract for your campaign. Talk about the guidelines with the influencer up front, get everything agreed upon, and make sure you're doing it in email. That way there's tracking.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa, for that. The next one we got is specifically for Adam on this one, talking about specific influencer channel. The question is, do you feel Instagram is good for branding and not necessarily for installs or direct response? What's your opinion on kind of branding versus direct response on specifically Instagram as an influencer channel?
Okay, well, to be honest with you, I can't really speak to branding. I've never worked on any pure branding campaigns. Everything I've done has been direct response, really in the mobile app world. But Instagram, while I imagine it's good for that, it's also good for direct response. It could be tougher to scale than other channels, but it can be very, very cost effective. And again, one of the small little tips I have for that is typically what you'll see in a lot of sponsored posts on Instagrams is, hey, go click this link in my bio. That can be a little bit unnatural on Instagram, and it kind of, it doesn't come off as very organic. I often recommend that rather than have people do that, you have people just tag your actual account. So, hey, go to your app's handle and convert that way. That way, it's not as trackable to an individual influencer because everyone is feeding through your individual Instagram feed, but it takes just as many clicks and it's a little bit more natural. So yeah, Instagram can be very effective, but for user acquisition, I tend to favor other channels.
Awesome. Thank you for that. We got a good chunk of questions about pricing and how to structure how much you're going to pay per post. So we're going to direct this one towards Erik. It's kind of a multiple parter here. So the first part of it is how do you talk to an influencer about paying a flat fee versus off performance, like app installs? How do you go about that, and how often are you kind of doing one or the other?
Cool. Yeah, I saw a couple of those in the Q&A as well. Tried to answer some of those individually, but I'm glad to answer it for everybody. The Blue Market's preferred model for working with influencers is to pay them on a rev share for directly attributed volume that they generate of installs. So I'd prefer to pay out on a performance basis to the influencers. I will say that has the potential to dramatically decrease the amount of influencers that you can work with. So the Blue Market also will buy on a flat fee basis, backing it out on our side, still billing on a CPI or other performance metric basis for our clients. The risk then, of course, becomes on us to make it a profitable buy, but that is what we do, and that's why we're in business. So it's our preferred method, and would like to see the industry moving towards having many influencers be comfortable with a one-to-one payout. But until the entire space is there, we continue to be able to say, okay, look, I gave you $1,000, and I expect to that to back out at a profitable basis for what we got paid from our advertisers for, and so on and so forth. So that is still going to require a dramatic amount of expertise. How do you figure out whether or not a flat fee payment for a post is still worth it or not? Not always easy, but it's an emerging space that we've got some experience with. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, that was great. There's also an interesting follow-up question to that that I'm really interested to hear the answer to this. So since a lot of these influencers are typically on the younger side, do you guys ever come across scenarios where the influencers might want to be paid out some way other than cutting them a check, like tickets to some pop star's concert or something like that, as opposed to just paying them out real dollars and cents?
Lisa would probably. Lisa would be able to. Yeah, go ahead.
I can personally say yes. Yeah, absolutely. I've paid influencer in kind before, especially if you have an app that lends itself to that. So you mentioned concert tickets. That's a really great example of it. But believe it or not, even in virtual currency, it can work, and in a number of other ways. But yeah, in kind merchandise, it certainly works.
Is that a similar experience you've had, Lisa, on kind of paying out in a different form?
Sorry, didn't know my mute was on. Yeah, no, definitely. We've had a similar here as well at Blue.
Cool. We've got time for one last question. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, you can jump in.
I was also going to say that there's several different ways to incentivize these guys. Cash obviously is important, but they also care about growing their pages as well. And so if there's some synergies that can be presented to them in ways that they can grow pages by working with your brand, that's important to them. I'll also say that they are competitive. We figured out in the Blue Market that we can hold contests between our influencers and offer prizes. And beyond the actual value of the prizes they're getting, just knowing that some of these people are gods among men can motivate them beyond any amount of dollar that you can imagine. If I'm running a particular campaign and I say, hey, look, I've got 3 or 4 of the biggest influencers trying to promote this, who's going to be the best, who's going to deliver the most volume, they go nuts over that type of stuff as well. So competition, offering to help grow their pages, among other things that Adam and Lisa said, are huge ways to motivate them.
Awesome. So we got time for one last question, and this is directed specifically to the Blue Market people. So the question for you guys, if an influencer is using the wrong link, or we've seen horror stories where on an Instagram post, an influencer will just copy and paste an entire email instead of just the specific things they're supposed to put in the post.
I think we've seen Scott Disick do that.
Yeah, he was one of the ones I was thinking of. But how do you work with influencers if they happen to screw up the post somehow?
Luckily here with BLU, since we're so well known in the influencer space and they want the continued business, as I talked about before, they're looking for that regular client base. They want that steady income coming in. And so what usually I'll do is I'll contact them directly and show them the mistake, and they're usually happy to fix it and adjust it.
Additionally,
and that's kind of what makes it hard. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, and I was just going to say additionally, and Lisa was exactly right. And because we do have, I don't mean to be too much of a schlep for has offers, but I will say because we have has offers implemented, and we know what performance metrics are inside or outside of the normal bounds, we can set up alerts to say such and such post has a whole bunch of clicks, but the conversion rate is way out of bounds. And so we can get our platform will give our staff the necessary resources to monitor all of these campaigns in real time to know that stuff is working great for us. So thanks for the setup question, Nate.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty perfect time to end this on a plug for has offers there. Well, cool. I want to thank again Lisa, Erik, and Adam for joining us. Thanks to everybody who opted in and asked questions. Remember, we will be answering a good number of the questions on our blog, so make sure to check out tune.com/blog for that blog post, hopefully coming in the next couple days, maybe today, who knows. But check it out. Thanks again to everybody who listened, and Lisa, Erik, and Adam. So we will sign off.
Thanks for listening.
All right.